There was more climate insanity over the weekend when Dan Andrews conspicuously announced he would ban the connection of new homes to gas supplies. The timing of this announcement conveniently relegated his Commonwealth Games debacle to yesterday's news, and the media organisations that criticise Andrews, which admittedly is not many of them, jumped on this latest outrage instead. Dan made sure the story was dressed up as a win for his long-suffering subjects because it would save them money and reduce their emissions. What Dan and the anti-gas brigade don't realise is that energy is best used at the location where it is generated. If you want to cook a meal in a suburban kitchen, for example, then you are going to need a lot of energy if you are using a windmill hundreds of kilometres away to generate it. And to generate the heat, because most of the energy is lost converting it to electricity, transmitting it, then converting it back to heat when it gets to your kitchen. By comparison, heat generated by simply lighting gas under your frying pan is many times more efficient. But that's just the start of it. By any metric, it is indisputable that prosperity, happiness, and even a clean environment are all related to fossil fuel use. The more fossil fuels a society uses, the happier and more prosperous the people and the cleaner its environment. Bowen, Andrews, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, Queensland Premier Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek, Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk, New South Wales Premier Chris Minns, and virtually everyone in power these days believes we can achieve the same outcome with the exact opposite approach. Even the Liberals and Nationals are reluctant to disagree with them, which makes you wonder, are all politicians these days deliberately destructive, or are they just puppets of people like Guterres? You'd have to hope for their sake they aren't puppets of people like Guterres. If this warning from KGB agent Yuri Bezmenov 40 years ago is anything to go by.
Because, you see, the useful idiots, the leftists who are idealistically believing in the beauty of Soviet socialist or communist or whatever system, when they get disillusioned, they become the worst enemies. That's why my KGB instructors specifically made the point, never bother with leftists. Forget about these political prostitutes. Aim higher. This was my instruction. Try to get into large circulation, established conservative media. Rich, filthy rich movie makers, intellectuals, so-called academic circles. Cynical, egocentric people who can look into your eyes with angelic expression and tell you a lie. These are the most recruitable people, people who lack moral principles, who are either too greedy or too suffer from self-importance. They feel that they matter a lot. These are the people who KGB wanted very much to recruit. It's the same pattern everywhere. The moment they serve their purpose, all the useful idiots are either be executed entirely, all the idealistically minded Marxists, or exiled or put in prisons, like in Cuba. Many former Marxists are in Cuba, in prison.
Replace Russia and the KGB with the WEF, the World Health Organization and the United Nations, and Bezmenov is on the money here because the objective remains the same.
The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized. This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not.
Well, the schmucks have already brought the crisis to the United States, and Australia is next.